Hello everyone and welcome to a new video on the channel. Today we are doing one of my favorite things, which is a flip through. This is my 2025 reading journal here and it is finally complete. I have caught it all up to date and it is time to share it with you all. I do quarterly flip throughs in all my journals, and so this is the last one for 2025, which feels really bittersweet. And then this one here is my reading data journal, and I use this for more than a year. So that I started it in 2025. It's not my first reading data journal, but it's the one that I'm using currently, and I'm hoping it will last me until the end of 2027. So I'm going to put this one to the side and we'll start with this one here. And if you're new here, I did end up naming my journal last year A Compendium of Magic. That's what it says here. I do apologize if you can't read it. I do know that if I had left it perhaps a different color you may have, but that has been a problem the whole way through with this series. The reason I called it that was because in 2024 I took you to 12 different fantasy destinations in my journal, and in 2025 I wanted to document down our findings on that adventure. And this was sort of like a reference textbook. I am a historian, well at least I have a degree in history, in ancient histories especially, and I really enjoyed the idea of just sort of using the ornate style of reference textbooks for a year-long theme. So that's what I did, and I was really interested in using the typography that I have, and overall I'm really happy with how this year went in this journal. So let's see what it all ended up looking like. So this was my first page in the journal aside from the title, and this is my reading challenge page, and this was my place to jot down how many books I read per month. That's why it alternates in colour, and my goal was 150 books, and I achieved that goal apparently on the 12th of December. I did end up reading 158 books in total, and that obviously was good because I met my goal. One thing I would like to change about this page, this was the first time that I just alternated 2 colours per month, and I have struggled with using this page to sort of understand where it is, because my eye is naturally just going to do this with the one colour, and I know that's 3 different months, but my brain just does not calculate that. So using 12 colours going forward is still what I prefer. I did used to do that. I just tried a different way this particular year, so at least I tried it and know what I like. Flipping over into the bookshelfie, this is something that has had a huge upgrade in 2026, and thank God, because I really stopped liking this probably halfway through the year. Green is my favourite colour, especially this colour here, but the green shelves with these colours and just no decoration made this really boring to me. And whilst I'm grateful that I created this page and I enjoyed you know, all the books that I read and got to put them down in a place, this isn't the bookshelfie that I like to represent. So I'm glad that I once again learned something from this. So I do end up having this little shelf over here, and I'm so frustrated that I didn't read 161 books, because then the whole shelf would be full. But this is where I put the overflow, and then I had a little key here with my star ratings because that's what I coloured in with. So this is all done by star ratings. Over here I have my Days Read Pixel, and this is one of my favourite places in this journal, and every journal has this. I sound like a broken record to the people that follow me or have been around for a while, but I really love the pixel charts because they give you so much information. So on this side here I have the spot for how many books I read per day, and then on this side here I have a spottier chart, and that's because I only mark down when I finish a book on this side. So for the majority of this side I only finish 1 book per day when I was reading, though there were 2 days where I read and finished 3 books. So that's really interesting information to have that I wouldn't normally have. And again with this I really love it because I can see the trends that are forming. So for example, on the 3rd of every single month from July to the end of the year I managed to read 3 books every single month. So I really like that, and you can see again that whole month, aside from May to June, I was consistent with that. This is information that I wouldn't get in any other way, and this type of way of glancing at it is a very visual guide, and I absolutely love it, and that is why I always have one in my journals. I just couldn't rave more about this page. Then we go into my challenges. I always have a few that I do each year, and for the year of 2025 I changed the order around a little bit as well. So we've got a Read the Rainbow challenge here, which is very self-explanatory. It is putting down the book cover that represents the colour. So as you can see here, we've got orange, and then the book cover is orange. I sometimes try to challenge myself and do it by reading only fantasy books, or do it by only romance books. This year I just kind of went with whatever colour book made it fit first. And the only romance book on here is actually the first one. The rest are all fantasy, which I find quite funny. It just goes to show just how much I prefer to read fantasy over anything else. On this side here I have my Booktress, and this was a new one for me and is not something I'm continuing. As you can tell, I've not completed it. It looks very colourful. I really like the concept of it, but unfortunately I just felt that it was just too much effort to keep up with, and I unfortunately just keep falling off track with it. So then I would have to spend quite a significant amount of time trying to catch it all up, especially since I was playing it a little bit differently than I suppose you should, because I wanted to fill in all the gaps and I wanted to have all my books on here. So this is not something I'm carrying forward, but I do like the concept of it, and I think if I didn't read so much, playing this the correct way would be quite fun. The next two challenges I have are the A to Z challenge and reading bingo challenge. So I did not complete my A to Z challenge this year. I did by title, or sorry, 2025 I did by titles. And I am one of those stubborn people who will not take away the or a from a title. I believe that's part of the title. I know there's a small few of us that agree with that, and most people were like, just stop being stubborn and use the titles that have those in it, so then you can fill it all in. I ended up missing 1, 2, 5. I did have a book for this, but I just didn't get to it, and that really frustrates me. And I did end up DNFing a couple of books that would have filled it otherwise. But overall, I'm really happy with the challenge. It's not so much that I want to have like a complete score every single year. It's just, you know, what I'm reading and where I can push myself to pick up another book. To fill in a challenge here and there is what I'll do. And then on this side I did complete my reading bingo. I really enjoyed this so much, and I finished it in December because I remember that this was the only one I had left, which was read 3 graphic novels, and that was very specific numbered because I had 3 graphic novels on my shelf that I needed to read, and they were all Lore Olympus, and I did them all back to back in the start of December. So really happy that I finished my bingo. So on these 2 pages here, I feel a little bit defeated by, not so much this one, but this one here. I kind of had the instinct that I was not going to gel with this. For many years, I actually held off from doing a 12 friends, 12 recommendations type of list. I used to get such bad FOMO over it, but I'd always tell myself, no, you are someone who likes to control your reading a little bit, so perhaps this isn't for you. And a lot of these books were actually on my TBR. Some of them I haven't gotten to yet, like Phantasma and Haunted Ever After. They were on my TBR. This was as well, but I knew I was going to read that. I had the ARC, so that was sort of like a given. But overall, I just don't suit this type of challenge, and so if I was to do it again, I would perhaps give my friends a list of books that I really want to read and get them to recommend what I should move up my TBR list, rather than just it's a little bit of controlling the narrative, I know, but I think that would be more suitable for me, because I did end up DNFing 4 books and I felt really bad about it, and so then I just stopped with the challenge because I didn't want to DNF any more of my friends' books. Yeah, I know we all have different tastes, even if we read the same sort of genres, but yeah, it started to make me feel a little bit uncomfortable because I was so finicky. So yeah, unfortunately that was a challenge that didn't work for me. And then on this side here is my readathons. These were the year-long readathons that I was participating in. I feel like I'm talking a little bit fast. I do apologize. I finished Buzzword Reading Challenge, I finished the Easy Reading Challenge, and I finished A Year of Goober. And I did both the bonus prompts, so I tried to challenge myself to do all 24 for that one. I gave up on Adventures in 𝓷𝓷 very quickly. I knew that I was not going to be able to commit to it. This is the 3rd year in a row that I've tried and failed, so I stopped even attempting, and I've not brought it back for 2026, intentionally knowing that I cannot keep up with it. Then Kindle Takedown was down here. I had the intention of trying to take off some books on my Kindle, and I completely failed that one. I am being more intentional about it in 2026 though. Okay, these are the last 2 pages before we get into the monthlies, and on this side is my monthly theme. I just wanted to have an overview of what I could expect per month, and I think it gives off really good vibes of what we spent the year looking at. And then on this side is my book club reads. Initially the year did not look like this in this page. You might see that there's a little bit of ripping of the paper there, but once I fixed it up, I was so happy with this layout. And unfortunately for book club, we had very mixed results. I ended up giving 1, 2, 3, 4 books really poor rating, and we only had 1 5-star read, or at least from my point of view of the book club. It's a shame because I came into it with high hopes for several of these books and they all let me down, which was really sad. But I wasn't the only one alone in that thought. But equally, my favourite book of the year ended up being a book club read, and I want to point out Upon a Starlit Tide by Cal Woods. I really enjoyed this book and I would have not picked it up if it wasn't for book club. So I really enjoy the fact that book club pushes me a little bit out of my comfort zone, but equally sometimes it's hard to handle when the book isn't as great as you'd hoped. Moving on into the monthlies, so this is the layout for every single month. It would have a 2-page cover spread, we'd have the chapter at the top, we'd have what the chapter was about, like a little reference point, then the title and a visual guide, and there was always a border. So if we just go to February and March, you can see there's always a border. So for the theme of January, we had amulets and wands. I thought that was a really good way to start the year out, and it was really cool to use bright colours to start the year out as well. I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to use in the journal. I kind of had an idea. I kind of kept a lot of the pages the same. Once you kind of find something that works for you, then you kind of stick to it a little bit. Unfortunately for me, I came into it with an idea that I wanted to change things up on this monthly view page. So this is where I track my reading in a visual guide. That's why I have all these different colours, and then I have like a key to represent what the colours are down here. And I thought I wanted to have this section over the side here, which was just an upcoming section, just to mark out the books that were being released in that month. I absolutely have no need for this, and I end up scrapping it pretty early on into the journal, I think. And then I did a readathon page in every month, which this month we had the TBR-a-thon, which I always participate in January. And I did the Paws and Bookshelves board game. And then I have my functional pages. So I have a TBR list, I have a prompts list because I do my own TBR game every month. I have an ARCs list here and a book haul, and that's what I was hoping it would be like for the whole year, but it didn't end up that way. That's fine. And then I have a reading log where I just track down the information of the books, using a visual guide as well to have the covers on, the star rating, and even though I write format down here, I like to have the sticker because I can look at it very quickly. And this one worked out pretty well. I did read 13 books in January, so that's why I have this little tippin on top here. Going into February, we had crowns, and I did have a little bit of a hard time because this pen stopped working for me. It actually bled through. You can kind of see it here, and that was the first time it had done that. All the other pens from the same set had never bled through. This is 160 GSM paper, so it was quite concerning to see that happen, but you know, you learn as you go. And I stopped using the acrylic markers actually along the way, I think, because of that. very bland looking monthly view here, and as you can see, the upcoming section, it didn't suit me because I didn't write down a single book in February that was coming out, which is very weird. Again, I was still trialing what I wanted to do for this layout here. And then again, readathon, functional section, reading log, and then we move into March, where it started to find my rhythm, and I was really happy by this point. So for chapter 3 we did familiars and animal forms, and I really liked the idea of doing this, and I was very excited to do it, and I loved this border so much. I really liked the colour theme as well. Again, still struggling with the calendar view here, but I ended up also not doing a great deal on this readathon here, and it's the second year in a row that I have not done great on realmathon, so I will not be doing it in 2026 because I actually know what I'm going to be doing in March already, and I have to keep it a secret, which is kind of annoying because I'm really excited to share it with you all, but that information will come soon. And then we have my functional pages again and a reading log. So you can see it repeats and repeats, but I like that repetition with the bit of change of decoration and style. So we get to April, we've got swords and daggers. It feels like April and May are always like the girlier kind of months for me, and so for April I went with quite a feminine swords, but let's soften it down with flowers, and I did the similar thing at the end of the year too, to soften off down a theme as well, and I quite liked it. I did do a a Dutch door here, trying to change things up. Did I end up changing it here? No, I still had the upcoming there. I think it's in the next couple of months where it changes. And then reading log. Trying to go through these as quickly as possible so it's not too boring, but equally pointing out things. In May was sort of like where things for me got a little bit exciting. Personally, I was reached out to by a stationery company, and so I knew I had to do a good job in May, and I decided that I would focus on the Providence cards from one particular book series, the 𝓬𝓱𝓮𝓻 Duology by Rachel Gillig. And I was very much so excited because I got to work with a company over the washi tape from Evie here, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. I worked so hard to make this come together, and I really liked it at the time. Looking back at it now, there's things that of course I would like to change, but overall really happy with how this theme came together, and I really loved this header as well. And then moving into June. June is my birthday month. I always put so much effort on, like pressure on myself to perform in my journal. I don't know why. And I always am disappointed with June. I don't know why. I give my favorite theme of the year to my birthday month, and then I feel like I don't do right by it. This year I did better, but it still looks quite bland compared to some of the other months. And I feel like it's because things are getting cooler here in New Zealand. It is the start of winter. I am, dealing with losing light. We've got a farm to look after. There's so many things to do. So I do find that these months sort of get a little bit less attention than I would like. And I was mostly happy with this theme. By now I had decided how I wanted to use my calendar. I was still trying to use the upcoming section, but it wasn't working. This was probably the best month where I tried my best with it. And then Evie also had sent me some more washi tape, so I was able to do a different kind of theme, but still use their beautiful washi tape. I really love these two pages here, and this was when I brought in the quotes page and stopped having a 2-page readathon page spread type deal. So I cut my readathon down to 1 page and then had the quotes here, and I was so much happier with this layout, and you'll get to see how much it evolves over the months to come. Still kept the same functional section here for now. And then here was my reading log, and then again I had a tip in here because I read 14 books. In July things got a little bit different again because I had to add an extra page because I was reading a lot more. So this one was quite bland looking, so I did do a theme on dragons, but I wanted I wanted to spend my time on the headers, and I actually used watercolor on these headers, and they took a very long time to do. So some of the other details perhaps were left out because I spent so much time on these headers, but I still feel like it came together how I wanted it to. We've got the calendar here, we're still doing the upcoming. Then I made a mistake, so I forgot a date, and I had spent so much time doing these headers, I was not prepared to redo them. So that's why I put the little box down here. And then we got our readathon quotes page, and then functional periods, reading log, but I read more than 12 books. I needed more space. So for a while there, this page was always blank, and I've recently filled it in, and you guys really helped me out. I was trying to avoid doing a second quotes page, but these ones here, even though the page is called quotes, is the first line of every book that I read within the month, whether I DNF it or not. The first line is here. These are not quotes that are necessarily my favorites. And so what I did here was I took my favorite books, so in the order that I read them, yes, and then if they were 4.5, so those were 4.5s, or a 5, they got put in here with a quote from the book that I enjoyed. And it's very difficult for me to choose a quote from Emily Wilde because I could just quote the whole book, but overall really loved this. Loved that I was able to bring back the font, even though I did not use watercolors. That would have taken absolute ages with how tiny they are, but it looks so cool, and I do end up doing that in other months as well, including August. My camera cut out, so back to it. We're in August, and this was a month where I focused on soft pastels, and I also finally brought the arcs back to this page. It just makes most sense to me to have it next to this calendar. Even though I don't use the calendar to sort of track these, it makes sense for me, so I'm so glad they're back here. And then I spelt monthly wrong, everyone, and I used vinyl, so I was not prepared to fix that. Sometimes there's just mistakes that you just have to leave, and however you would say that, monthly view, had to stay. And then we had a readathon, we had the quotes page, and then the functional spreads, still very similar, but then needed some space to just sort of add in extra bits here and there. Reading log was very pretty. I really liked this one a lot, and carried it onto here. And then we've got our quotes here. I tried to do the portals type thing that I'd done with back here on this page here, to fill in the gaps between all the quotes. So I had several books again that I gave either 4.5 or 5 stars to, so I filled the page up with those. And then in September we don't have that because I didn't read as many books. September is my dark depths theme, and it's also the monochromatic theme that I do every year. I always try to do at least one. Normally I do like blacks and greys kind of thing. This one I went all blue. Really liked it, and really happy with it actually. Didn't do great with my readathon, but I was happy overall with how I used this, and this font here, Like a Rope, is one of my favorites. And then we had our reading log, and I only read 12 books in September, and so I left it there. Now we're at October, which is possibly my favorite of the entire year. I spent a long time on this one. So we did potions and spells for chapter 10, and this vinyl is possibly the worst vinyl I've ever come across. I still have a little bit left, and I was tempted to throw it in the bin, but once I figured out how to work with it, I don't know. Will I use it again? I don't know, but it's still there. I really love how this turned out, but it took me forever. Not only did it take me 4 different attempts to cut out all my headers on the vinyl, and they had to be double cut at the thickest setting. They would not adhere to any transfer tape because of the glitter, and so I had to painstakingly put every single one on, including the little middle bits. So it did take me absolutely ages. Again, using the EB washi tape, I had planned out this theme well in advance, absolutely loved it. The change for this was I started putting my calendar on just one page, and I love this so much. If you've already seen my January setup, and by the time you've seen this video going up, my February setup will be already up. I have continued this layout. I absolutely love it and will continue it for the whole year, hopefully, unless I get bored of it. But I really enjoyed this. And then we have readathon quotes, and this is the first quotes page that actually had to have a tip in put in, because this was what it originally looked like, and I had to cover it up. So yeah, I really like that. And then if we swap over to fill in the gap that ARC's left behind, I put library hires, if you hadn't seen that before in the other sections. And then we've got the reading log. Again, had to have another page added on, and so I only had 2 books in the month of October, so I put multiple quotes down, and I tried to use a metallic pen to make the headers as sparkly as these ones are, and it took a lot of work, but I'm really happy with it. Then we go into November, which was my out of comfort zone type of setup. We did demons. I knew I wanted to approach demons, but this is very bland. I must admit, the white cover pages were getting to me with how much white was left behind, but I'm happy that I tried something new. And by this stage I started making my own stickers. So you can see these stickers I printed out using Canva Pro, and then tried to fill in the space up a bit more so it wasn't so white spaced. And then I made a bookmark for these 2 readathons because I did have to shuffle everything around a little bit to make it work for November, because I knew I was going to do 2 readathons. Perhaps I could have done a tip in, but I'm really happy with how it came together. Here is where I put my quotes section, which is really odd to me because I read, you know, a significant amount in October, but they all fit into such a small space. And then on here we've got how I managed to make it all work, and I took out the, oh no, I've got library hires there. What did I take out? Oh, that's because I had 2 readathons. I wasn't doing my prompts game, that's why. And then here's my reading log for November, and then again I needed another page, and I did end up putting in some quotes here from the books that I enjoyed. I did not colour in the headers because I was worried that you would lose the design. It's very squiggly as it is, and I used watercolours for these as well, so I didn't feel confident that you'd be able to read them, so I thought I would just leave them like this, and for the most part I quite like it. And then we get to my second favourite theme of the year, which was December, and it was nights, and I softened everything with yellow. I'm really into yellow at the moment, so I was really happy with how this came together. Thank you to the person that pointed out that I'd made a mistake up here after I posted the video, and I managed to fix that off camera. And then here is what this one ended up looking like for my monthly view, and here is my readathon and my quotes page, functional spreads, reading log, and my quotes page, which I'm so happy with. I love this font so much. And then we had just one page, and that one was kind of used, so that was all that was left. So we managed to just squeeze in, which I'm very happy about. So that's the main journal done and dusted. We'll try and squeeze that off to the side there, and then we'll bring this one back into view. So this was one that I set up at the start of at the end of 2024 with the intention of it having 2 parts. This first part here is what I call the global section, which I hope will last the entirety of the journal. So we have the series tracker. I was getting really tired of having to consistently rewrite out all the series that I'm reading and not have enough space. So this is why I came up with this idea to have a separate journal and have my series tracker here. The key is down here. Essentially, this is where I started 2025. So all these series I'd already had on the go. Brown represents the ones that I've DNF, so I've already gone through and set up for the year of 2026 and taken off the series that I just don't think I'm going to complete or have any interest in. So I've decided to DNF. You know, who knows, maybe I'll change my mind, but for now that's what the little brown marker is. Anything that has red at it all the way across means that I have completed it. That's the wrong color, I made a mistake, but otherwise this is the right color. And then the colors represent the months that I read, the years that I read them in. And we are now at this section here, so I am starting out down here for 2026. I've already started some series. I'm actually working really hard on continuing series. I went through, as I said, and looked at them, and I was like, actually, I think I can, you know, pick up some of these from the library. So intentionally working on that. And then the other section in this is the owned TBR, which I've done very similar key down the bottom here, so it matches. And these are all the books that I have on my shelf, and I am very happy with the fact that I have hardly any books on my shelf to read. That's sort of the goal for me. I prefer to have books on my shelf that I know that I really enjoyed, as opposed to buying a book, not enjoying it, and then having to sell it on. So I do have a little stack of them actually that I need to sell on. And then we have my 2025 portion of this journal. Now this journal is very stats heavy, and I wanted to start the year out with A Year at a Glance, which was a page that I really enjoyed for a few years. I have not continued it in 2026, but it is one that I have enjoyed. And here is the second section of that, all done, all decorated. Essentially, if you're new, this is a section where, oh, I have not finished. I was meant to come back in here and mark them down, so I will do that off camera. But essentially I come in and say for Hot for Slayer, which was my first read of October, I gave it 4 stars. So all these colours represent my star ratings that I carried on from the other book here. I finished it on the thirst, so I marked that the same colour as the circle, and then so forth. So it works like that. Sometimes if I read more than and complete more than one book on the same day, I'll do the first book. So that's how that works. This is very self-explanatory. I made a list for the DNFs and the rereads that I had in 2025, and this is what I had. Now I had this books by section, so we've got books by ratings, books by genres, books by format, and books by length. And I really love this. I changed up the layout of it in 2026, but I'm glad that I'm continuing with it. It really gives you a good view when you're just looking at one particular stat. So I am tracking by star rating on this one, and I can clearly see that 4 stars is my highest one, because this color here, I know it's very close to 5 stars. I know a lot of people struggled with that, and I've made intentional choices in colors this year to not have that happen again, but I can see that there are a lot of red, so that is how I was able to decipher it. And then for books by genres, this one was the page that gave me the most grief, and I absolutely hated it for the longest time, and then I sort of just accepted how it was. And then again, I broke it down into certain genres. However, I was trying to be, I wouldn't say clever is the right word, but I was trying to lean into what I enjoy the most in fantasy. So I had a cozy fantasy, a gothic fantasy, and then other fantasy, which was where I slipped up the most, because you can't just dump a whole different kind of fantasy into the one other fantasy section, which is why I struggled with it. But it is what it is, and I enjoyed figuring out that I'd made a mistake and how to work with it, so in 2026 I would not have the same issue. And then over here we have books by format, which is very helpful, and you can see that I predominantly read ebooks. And then this one here is my favourite of them all, because it tells me information that I never knew before. And I predominantly read books that are either 301 pages to 500 pages long. So you can see that there is a lot of the red colour and the gold colour. And that predominantly is the colour that is appearing repeatedly throughout this. And I never knew that. So, I mean, I kind of had a guess. If I was forced to guess, I would say that I would read between them, but now I know. So it's really helpful information, and I have definitely carried these over into 2026. here is my reading goals for 2025, and I had mixed results. So I did complete my 150 books read goal. I did read 50 books off my physical TBR, whether that be that I actually read them with it being an ebook or an audiobook. That was the main goal. It didn't matter what format, just as long as they were off and I'd read them. Then clear 80 ebooks off my Kindle. That's a laugh. I probably cleared off maybe 5 that weren't ARCs. And then read 24 physical books. In the end, I did complete this. Now, I only read 15 physical books, but I do mixed reading, so tandem reading, so there were physical books out. I can't remember how many I did. I think it was like maybe 21. Maybe that's a high number. Maybe it's 12. Hold on. That's really going to annoy me now. Mixed. Oh, I was right. 21. So easily done this. Read a book that's over 650 pages long. We did that in, I think, April. Then finish 20 series that I started before 2025. No, that did not happen. 20 diverse reads, yes. Keep my NetGalley percentage above 90%, yes. And I did read 3 books out of the genres I don't normally read, but I haven't written them down. Yeah, that's a bit on me, but I did do it. I did not, unfortunately, cover this read a book set in each continent. I realized because I read fantasy, this was kind of not going to work for me very quickly. Down here is where I tracked my social media follow counts. That was just information for myself. And then we get on to possibly everyone's favourite, the giant table of Stats Omnibus. This is where I just tracked down absolutely everything that I could think of. It's pretty much stayed the same going into 2026. I really enjoyed it. I just took out 2 different things. What did I take out? Readathon and Buddy Read. And then I replaced them with something else. Standalone and part of a series. I think that's what I changed them to. Otherwise, really love this table. And I can't wait to use it. Last 2 pages in this little section here, and it is the library savings and the eARC station. And apparently I saved $810 last year by using the library, and I'm very excited about that because God only helped me if I had spent all that much money on books. And then on this side we have the eARC station. This was new to me, but this was a really good hub, and I could track my average each month at NetGalley, where I left my, sorry, not my average, my percentage every month, where I left off from what ARCs I had. The goal is to keep your percentage above 80, but I wanted to challenge myself and keep it above 90. And then on this side I just tracked how many books I received, how many I read, and where I got them from. So really helpful information to me. We're getting there, we're almost done. We just have the monthly stat pages, which all look the same, just a different colour. On each one I had just a section with all the information about core stats, what I DNF'd, what I sampled, which is what I call a book if I don't get past 10%, because I don't feel like I can say I DNF'd it because I didn't give it a chance. And then we have genres, star ratings, social media, which was more so for myself, acquired, and pacing, and then a little collage of all the books that I read in that month. So that's what I continue through. And then every quarter I did a quarterly stats page. So here is the first one, and this was my first time doing it, so I absolutely hate this page because I didn't know what I was doing and I just sort of did it on a whim. But it did set me up, so I knew what I wanted to have happen in subsequent quarters. So you have to learn somewhere. So I'm really happy that even though I hate looking at it, I figured out what I wanted. And then on this side here we have the April stats, May stats, again that quarter, again the quarterly stats there, same thing from July through to September, and those stats there. And then we have the last 3 months of stats and the last quarter stats, and then we have just this one last page, I think. Yep. So we have the book matrix, which is how I figured out what my top reads of the year were. So this was the top 18 over here, and I had a really hard time putting them into order, but I'm really happy with the order that they ended up in. I had so many amazing reads in 2026. And that, sorry, 2025, I'm ahead of myself. And that is where we're going to leave today's video. So unfortunately my camera cut out again. It clearly shows that I've talked a lot about these books today. I'm not sure how I'm going to line this up. Editing me will figure that out. But this is the last look at 2025. We're now officially into 2026 content only. However, that will change in a little bit. I do have a little secret project that is going to stay secret for now, but it does involve 2027, and I will be sharing that rather soon actually, which is kind of weird because we've only just started a new year, right? But I'm very excited about it. I am working with a particular brand, and I'm really excited about it actually, but I don't know when it's going to be starting, so I cannot talk about that for now. But I can say that this is, a bittersweet moment. I'm really glad for all the things that I learned about journaling in here and the sort of ideas that came along the way. You can definitely see in some months where I struggled to really feel like I was filling a page, and in other months where I started to really come into the layering and figure out how I wanted things to look in the end. And I'm so excited because that means that I get to take those tools into 2026 and forward into other years and see how I can improve my style even further. So this journal is now being retired. We are no longer seeing it anymore on the channel, except for maybe flip throughs for specific things, perhaps, I'm not sure. But then we're going to be spending the majority of our time with these journals here, and also there are a couple of others that are floating around somewhere. Where have I put them all? I have no idea. Oh, here they are. So we've got that one, and this one, and this one. So you'll be able to see all about these journals if you look into my 2026 flip through, or what I'm planning to do. But that's not about today's video. It was all about 2025. We are saying goodbye, and I am so glad that you spent the time with me today. So until we next meet, I hope you have fun reading or journaling, and I will see you in another video very, very soon. Bye guys.